Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for the month of November. I'm a little bit worried because I've realized that there are only 2 more months left in the year, and I'm still trying to meet my goals of TBR 0 and Series 0. So for TBR 0, I actually am doing pretty well. I have these 4 books left on the pile. To be honest, every single one of these books is a book that I've obtained actually in the last couple of months. So I think they don't really count for TBR 0 because I think ongoing, my idea for TBR 0 would always be that I had completed all the books that I'd read in the last year or the last 6 months or something. So technically for TBR 0, I don't think I have to read these, but also I don't just want technical TBR 0, I want actual TBR 0, so I'd like to read these. So I'd like to put 2 of these on my TBR, but I have some problems because, for starters, I have a library book that I need to read, and I'm also trying to get to Series 0. Now, that means having caught up on all the series that I'm in progress on. Definitely not going to happen, but I wanted to get to a small number of series, so I'm trying to at least complete some series that I have on my list, and there's some that I think I can do. So I also do want to pick some books for this TBR using the TBR machine, which is a website I made that spits out random reading prompts. I will use that to pick some books off this TBR. Will it be 2? I'm not sure. Because as well, I'm trying to do my realistic TBRs still, which is where basically I pick a physical book and an audiobook for every week of the month. There's kind of 5 weeks in this month. However, the first week, which is half October, half November, I didn't plan for it in October, but I think I need it to catch up on my October TBR because I went on a surprise holiday and I'm behind. So the realism of that TBR hasn't worked out, but I think I can catch up if I have that extra week. So we're going to give that to October, and we're going to have 4 weeks for November. So let's start by putting all the books I already have on my TBR onto the week list, and then we'll work out which slots we still have free to fill up with TBR books. Firstly, the library book I have Love and Pain by Ben Gillies and Chris Jono. This is a memoir by 2 of the members of my favorite band when I was a teen, Silverchair. I loved them. They were the band that inspired me to start playing guitar, but I've only loved Daniel. Daniel is not involved in this book, and I'm pretty sure that this book is going to be the other 2 members having massive beef with him and just whining about their teen rock stardom. To be honest, I think it's going to be really cringe and awful, 40-year-old men being miserable about their teen lives. I just realized I'm still wearing my earbuds from before. Anyway, yeah, I'm really worried that I'm going to hate this, but they were my favorite band as a teen, and I have to read it. So we're going to read it, and we're going to see what we think. So that's going to be in the first week of November. Then as well, for that first week, I thought, since I'm reading teen angst or adult angst, adults have angst too. Since I'm reading about teen angst stuff, I wanted to finish off a series where the latest book has just been released this year, and that is the One of Us series by Karen McManus. So the first one was One of Us is Lying, then there's One of Us is Next, and this last one is called One of Us is Back. So in the first book, basically there's this group of teens in detention, and by the end of detention, one of these teens is dead and the rest of them are all suspects, and you learn a lot about their life and their struggles and what happened with this teen who died. In the second one, it kind of went off and followed more the younger siblings, but I believe this third one is going to kind of come back, and One of Us is Back. Something's happened that makes them think that this teen that died in the first book isn't dead. I may have got that synopsis wrong because it's been a while since I read it, but it'll be something like that. These are just YA thrillers, and for some reason, even though I don't tend to like teen angst, and these have a lot of them, and I don't really like YA thrillers, but sometimes I do, and the first 2 books in this series I did, so I think I might really like this one. I hope so. So that'll be the first week of November. Then in the last week of November, let's fill things backwards. I want to continue my Cosmere Reread, and I'm going to be starting The Way of Kings. The reason why I've put this in the last week is that I think this is going to take me 2 weeks to read, but I've also allowed myself 2 months, so I think I'll read it in the last week of November and the first week of December. That's my plan. Will it work out? I don't know, because these books are very thick. The paper in these is very thin, even though Well, it's not too thin, but still, very long books. Way of Kings is the first book in the Stormlight Archive series. So far there are 4 books released. I've read the first 3. When I get to the 4th one, it will be a new read, but I've been rereading the whole Cosmere before I go into that, and I'm hoping I can finish my reread of the Cosmere books by the time the 5th Stormlight Archive book comes out and go into that with like as much information as I possibly can. I'm not sure I'm going to quite make it, but I'm going to try. I still need to read Mistborn Era 2 as well, and a few other random ones, and I'm trying to read 1 a month, but I'm giving myself 2 months for each of these thick Stormlight Archive books. So if you haven't heard about the Stormlight Archives, it's really hard to talk about. We're kind of following different people involved in this war, both people with a lot of power and also people who really don't have a lot of power, but they all kind of come together and learn a lot about the magic of the world. But there's just so much going on. I really do like the magic of this world though, and like so many of the twists and turns of things. But also, it's been a while since I read it, and I have now like reread all the Cosmere books that were released before this, because I'm rereading the Cosmere kind of in publication order. I think that's the best way to read series, really. So I'm hoping that I'm going into this with a lot more information than the first time I read it, and that I'll pick up on a lot more. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to this reread. Then as well, since I'm reading big epic fantasy series in the last week of November, I thought I would also continue the Jaren series by Kate Elliott. I'm probably not going to finish this one by the end of the year, but also they're just releasing the audiobooks for this series. So I've said before, Kate Elliott's writing style, sometimes I just find it a little bit dense and I struggle to get through it, even though I enjoy the concepts and I enjoy the worlds and the characters that she creates. Like, I enjoy her stuff, the ideas, but the writing is just a bit dense for me, and so audiobook will help. So they're just releasing the Jaren audiobooks, so I'm just going to read them 1 a month maybe until I'm done, which maybe will be January, so just a little bit late in terms of series 0 for that one, but it's okay. So what are the Jaren books about? Why do I always struggle to explain these epic fantasy type things? Is this even epic fantasy? Because it's got a sci-fi element. It's kind of about a world where humans went out into space and we discovered that there was already this giant space empire out there, and then they kind of brought us into their empire, but being humans, we didn't like doing what we were told, and there was this one human who rebelled, and he is now kind of in a quite powerful position within this bigger alien empire and kind of trying to still do some rebellion underneath things. But we're not following any of that. We're actually following his younger sister, who's technically his heir. She doesn't want anything to do with it though, and she ends up getting stuck on this planet where these people don't know anything about the bigger universe and all the galactic empire or whatever it is. They don't know anything about that. So she ends up with this like nomadic tribe, and she just like forms all these relationships and learns their culture really well. She has a big interest in like languages and culture, and so she finds herself really at home with these people, and there's a whole romantic subplot as well, which I don't really enjoy. It's not the kind of romance that's for me. There's a little bit of them working together, but mostly it's like them having like a big battle of wills, enemies to lover kind of thing. Like, I like enemies to lover, but when they work together more, they don't really work together enough for me. And like, he's kind of an abusive asshole in my opinion. But anyway, I know some people like that. I do still find the ideas of these really interesting, and the thing is, I've read the first book back in my 20s, and then I also owned what I thought was the second book, but turns out to actually be the third book, and I never read that. But I've always wanted to continue the series since like 20 years ago, so this is like a gift for 20-year-old me. I'm finally going to continue the series, but in audiobook form, because I think I can do that. So that'll be the first and last weeks of November sorted out. Then we're going to do the third week in November. So what I think I'm going to do is put the third week of November aside to read the Howl's Moving Castle trilogy. I read Howl's Moving Castle quite a while ago. I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like a whimsical story about this girl named Sophie, who unfortunately ends up getting cursed to become an old woman, and in trying to deal with that ends up forming some kind of friendship with this magician named Howl, who lives in this moving castle. But I've forgotten a lot of what happened, so I'm going to reread that, and then I'm going to try and read the next 2 books. I've got holds at the library on the first audiobook, and I think the next 2 are available, and I've also got holds at the library on all 3 books, which I think should come through before that week. So then I can just spend the whole week like reading those books regardless of whether I'm reading physically or audiobookly. I don't often do things like that. I normally will have a physical book and an audiobook, 2 different books on the go at the same time. So I'm quite interested to try like reading a book, half audiobook and half physical book. We'll see. So then we only have 1 week left, which is annoying because, as I said, I wanted to pick 2 books off my TBR, but I think I'm only going to have space for 1. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, there's no point planning to read more books and then just not reading them anyway, you know? So, let me grab the TBR machine and we'll pick a book off the TBR, and then I'll also use the TBR machine to pick an audiobook for that 2nd week in November. Okay, let's pick the first prompt. Read a book with magic in the title. That is a very limited prompt, and I cannot do it. I've just noticed I have 2 books on this TBR with the word bone in their title. Nope, that prompt doesn't work. What we're going to do is I'll put that prompt aside for the audiobook prompt, and hopefully the next prompt I pick will fit better. Let's see. Read a self-published book. I don't know if this is actually self-published, but it would surely be a small publisher. Oh, Random House New Zealand. I don't think so. But it's Random House New Zealand, not like Random House whatever else, Random House International. And actually, Random House New Zealand, when they were located just down the road from me. You know, I think we just have to stretch the prompts now that we're down to so few books on the TBR. So I'm going to go with this because it's a New Zealand author, and I think like a relatively unknown book. I've never heard anyone talk about it, even though I can see here that it's won fiction awards. You know what? I know it doesn't really fit, but I don't care. We're going to use it to pick this book anyway. So this is Singularity. I believe this is a short story collection. It says it covers topics from childhood innocence to adult desperation, from the depths of poverty to cushioned affluence. It also says the stories can be read as discrete pieces, yet also contribute to an unifying narrative. Anyway, we're going to go with that one. And then, as well, I'm going to try and find an audiobook that I can get from the library that has magic in the title. Okay, so there are slim pickings for books with magic in the title on my Goodreads TBR. So I think what I'm actually going to do is get some graphic novels from the library. So I have recently reread the Shades of Magic trilogy by B.E. Schwab, and I did that in preparation for the new spin-off series, The Fragile Threads of Power. However, I've remembered that there is this graphic novel series based around the story of the king when he was younger, kind of like a prequel graphic novel series. And I did read the first book and then I never continued, but I would like to continue. My library has all 3. They have the word magic in the title, so I'm going to read those ones to fit this prompt. And then I can pick a 3rd prompt for the audiobook. So I'm still picking 3 books off the TBR machine, which is what I used to always try to do. So that makes me happy. All right, so let's pick the 3rd prompt. Read a hyped book that everyone has been saying is great. You know, I've been trying to avoid hyped books that everyone is saying is great lately. Let me see. Okay, I think for this one, we're going to go with How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. I've heard a lot of people saying this is really good. I believe it's like a bunch of connected short stories about humanity trying to recover from some massive plague. Sounds fairly relevant to today. But as I said, heard great things about it, so I have been interested to pick it up. So I guess now is the time. There is a hold list on my library app, but I think it'll come through in time. So I guess this will be my TBR for the month of November. Where's my physical book pile? Let me stack it. Why is it only these 3 books? That's not right. Oh yeah, these 3 books plus 3 Howl's Moving Castle books plus some graphic novels. Like, part of me wants to say it doesn't seem like that much, but I know it is, especially I'm only going to get through half of this. There's no way I get through more than that. And the goal is not to read lots. The goal is to read some good books. So hopefully some of these will be that. Let me know if you've read any of these books, whether you think I'm going to like them, and of course check back for my wrap up at the end of the month where I will tell you my thoughts. And let me know what your reading plans are for the month of November and for the rest of the year. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.